Hello, my fellow readers. This is Jackie from Jack Gets Lost Down a Book Hole. And for this video, I thought I would talk about my my June wrap-up. Now, I read 10 books this month. Most of them are from the library. And because it seems like I can't talk about them the way I would want to talk about all of my books without this video being too long, I'm mostly going to focus on the ones that I have that are from my personal collection. But I will talk a little bit about the ones I got from the library. Unfortunately, I no longer have them. That's the other reason I don't have them anyway. So I can't really show them, and I don't know how to, in some videos people are able to post the picture on their camera of the books that they don't have at the moment. I don't know how to do that. So, like I said, I read 10 books this past, as in June. Okay, so the first book I read this month is The Tales of Beetle the Bard by J.K. Rowling. This is basically the Wizarding World equivalent to Grimm's Brothers fairy tales and Hans Christian Andersen fairy tales. It's basically a collection of wizards' version of fairy tales. So magic is they use magic to solve their problems. Where often magic isn't part of the problem. And this collection includes the tales of the three brothers that they talk about in book 7 of Harry Potter. And it was hard for me to. I gave it 5 stars, but it was kind of hard for me to rate it because it's a collection of fairy tales, and it would be basically for wizards. It would still be for children, wizard children. But I thought it was very enjoyable. I liked the stories. It was nice to actually read an actual copy of the fairy tale, the fairy tale of the Three Brothers. And there was also stories like Bappity Rappity, The Hopping Pot, I think, The Hairy Heart, which I really liked that one. I thought that one was really creepy and interesting. The warlock who had the hairy heart, because he didn't want to feel love, so he let his heart shrivel up and get all hairy and stuff. I thought that was kind of an interesting story. Very dark, which most fairy tales originally were dark. I mean, come on, in Cinderella, the stepmother, to make sure the shoe fit each of the stepsisters, she had them cut off part of their foot just so the shoe would fit. And then, as punishment, after the prince finds Cinderella and everything, as punishment to the stepsisters, they get their eyes poked out. So, I mean, it's not exactly, fairy tales weren't always, Disneyfied, I like to call it. So, I enjoyed it. Like I said, I gave it 5 stars. Okay, then I read Revolution by Jennifer Donnelly, which is a historical fiction. It basically kind of mixes the present day with the past, as in specifically the time of the French Revolution. And it's this teenage girl who, her brother died, she blames herself for it, and she's been dealing with all the guilt and weight of that guilt ever since it happened, and it's her senior year, and she's no longer focusing on her schoolwork, and she's just struggling with that, and she's kind of her relationship with her friends has fallen apart. And so her absentee father, all of a sudden, who was he's a bit of a workaholic, he's very focused on his job. He doesn't have much of an imagination. That's a personal thing I noticed. He, thinking he knows what's best, he puts her mom in the hospital, and wanting his daughter to graduate and successfully and get into a good school, he offers to take her with him to France so she can, focus on her final school assignments that will help her graduate and get good grades. And she agrees, but she wants to be able to come back early instead of staying the 3 weeks. So he's like, as long as if you at least create an outline for me of your paper and do a good job on it and let me look at it, then you can go back home and take care of your mom. So while she's in France, trying to research her paper, and because she's actually writing about a famous French musician, of that same time period. How he's influenced a lot of modern musicians. So while she's researching this, she discovers a diary written by a girl from that time period she was an acting troupe, and then, the king and queen, Queen Marie Antoinette and King Louis the 15th, I believe, or 15th or 14th, they see this girl's family perform, and they ask her to come and be a caretaker and entertain the young prince because, his brother just died and they want him to be happy again. Marie Antoinette basically wants her son to be happy, so the girl in the diary starts to talk about her experience with the prince, how she kind of starts to get attached to him and care for him, and then, of course, like I said, it's during the French Revolution, so he and his parents get kidnapped by the peasants and everything, and the girl in the diary is basically caught between, she's beginning to understand what the royal family is going through and their own struggles, but she also is still part of the people, so she's kind of caught in between the revolutionaries and the royal family. And the present day girl, she really connects with this woman in her diary and, understands her really well. And she gets very emotional about the diary's story and everything, about the girl's story and all that. So I thought this was really good. I gave it 5 stars. I believe 5 or 4 stars. Let me just double check. Yeah, 5 stars. My only problem with this one is there was a twist towards the end that was really very randomly placed. I felt like it didn't fit right. You would just think if you read it, you would think if you read it, you would think I'm assuming you would know what I'm talking about. And to me, this little aspect of the story doesn't make sense where it is. I feel like. Sorry, I'm trying to adjust because the stupid sunlight is. I feel like it would not fit towards like the last half of the story. I feel like it doesn't make any sense. It felt really weird, but it did kind of go with the plot of the story, so it was weirdly placed in the story. I felt like it didn't make sense. I mean, it was kind of cool, a cool aspect of the story, but it was odd that it was just like, oh, just randomly happened towards the last part of the story. And that I really enjoyed the book, and I love the mixture of the past and the present, and comparing the two girls, the girl from from Paris, or 1700s or whatever, like during the French Revolution, and then this modern day girl who was grieving the loss of her brother and is struggling, and can't really connect with her father and everything. And I just thought it was a really interesting story. Okay, so I also read, I started reading a lot of Agatha Christie books, so I read Murder on the Orient Express, is the first one I read. I thought I gave that one 4 stars. Basically, there's a murder on the famous Orient Express train, which I think still exists. And this Belgian detective Hercule Poirot is on the case. And unfortunately, any of the people on the train could be a suspect because they're on a train and they're kind of stuck. So there's not a lot of people unless the culprit got off the train. But it just and actually all the people believed that this guy deserved to die. So it was like any of them could be guilty. But I enjoyed the twist at the end. It was a nice surprise. I didn't expect it. So it was a good story. The writing was a bit dry. That was my only thing. But I mean, it was also written in the 1920s, and in fact, authors got paid by the word back in the day. So I mean, and I'm sure it was still the same in 1920s. So I mean, the more words you wrote, the more you got paid. So, I mean, so I know that a lot of those classic books are really dry and can be kind of boring, but, I mean, the authors, because they wrote so much, they got paid very well. So I enjoyed, that was my first Agatha Christie book. And then after that one, okay, I'm gonna skip this one because I'm gonna talk about this one later. A List of Cages by Robin Rowe, which this was also another good one. I gave 5 stars. I know I give a lot of book 5 stars, but it's just, I don't find these books to be 2-star or 3-star or even 3-star books. I think these books are great, and I enjoyed them very much. This is 2 foster brothers. The youngest, and better in high school. One of them, his parents died, and he was living with the one boy, Adam. But then his uncle, all of a sudden, his long lost uncle had shown up and came and took him in. But it turns out his uncle's abusive and will use a switch to if he does something bad, was a switch on the boy, and he's very skittish and very shy and insecure. And Adam, the other boy, sees him again and wants to reconnect with him because it broke his heart that his brother left. Had to leave and go live with his uncle. So he decides to help the boy, help him and everything. But then Adam realizes it's not just that he's shy and insecure. There's bad things going on at his home life, and so he wants to help him. But of course, this is a line that you got to be wary about crossing. So I really enjoyed. This is another one I really loved. It was very emotional. It was such a good story. I love how it looked at the relationship between, Adam and the other boy. I wish I could remember his name, but I can't. It really, looked at their relationship and their bonds, and I will admit, I don't read a lot of books that are about the bonds between males, or if it is there, it's a subplot. It's a side. It's a subplot in the story. It's not the main plot of the story. I mean, I feel like, I would probably have to read certain kinds of books, like sci-fi, for instance. I'm sure in sci-fi you'll get a lot of those kind of relationships between 2 males, not just, romantic, but also, brotherhood type. I do get a little bit of that. There is a lot of that in, the Song of Ice and Fire series, which is really cool. Especially, you have Jaime and Tyrion, for instance. They have a really great relationship. That tends to be really rocky, especially on the show right now. I have a feeling it's on thin ice. I really enjoyed that one, and I definitely would recommend it. Okay, then I read Salt of the Sea. Back in May, I believe May or April, I read Between Shades of Grey, which was about the girl Alina, and she, her mother and brother go to I know it's not a concentration camp, Gulag or something, something like that. Well, this Salt of the Sea is about Lena's cousin, whom she mentions, if you read Between Shades of Grey, mentions this one is about Joanna, not just about Joanna, but it's about a group of teenagers and a couple other people that are basically, they're a mixture of German and Russians, and they all have this guilty secret that they're all dealing with, these young kids are dealing with, and they're all trying to escape and get to the Guslav. I don't know how you say it. And so, like I said, Joanna's feeling guilty because, because she feels like she has abandoned her cousin and everything, that her family abandoned their family. She feels guilty of that, but I hope that I would like to believe that Joanna and Lena reunited at their husbands. Okay, I just kind of spoil what, there's an aspect in Salt of the Sea that I spoil a little bit, sorry. But I hope that the 2 cousins are reunited and the husbands of these 2 cousins meet and stuff. If they were real people. I don't know if I would probably have to write to Ruta Sepetys, or there's a book con coming up that I'm going to. I'm hoping to go to in November in South Carolina. So it'd be cool if Ruta Sepetys was there, and I could ask her if she was there. But I don't know which YA authors are going. I don't even know if she's a YA author. I mean, I'm assuming so because at my library, it was in the YA section. So I gave it 5 stars. I keep giving books 5 stars. Who knows? Maybe years later I might change it. They all like I said, Joanne, and then you have these 2 others. You have Alfred, who's like a Navy, and he's the Navy. He works on the Gustav, and he's trying to be the ideal German. He believes in Hitler's beliefs and everything. And then he believes that he is very self-important and wants to, has that arrogant mentality about him, and he keeps writing these mental letters to this girl Hannelore, which you later find out is half Jewish. And Alfred, he sold her father, I think it was her father that was the Jewish one. He told the government her father was Jewish, and then she basically, I guess shouted to the world that she admitted to being half Jewish, and she was proud of it, and he did not. And Alfred was disappointed in her. He didn't approve of that because he's all about Hitler and his belief system, and he believes Jews are inferior. And then you have Amelia, who's this 15-year-old girl who's living, her parents sent her to live on this farm. And basically when she was living on the farm, the woman who ran the farm, the Russians came and were looking at the woman's daughter. And so the woman was like, no, go after Amelia, she's much prettier. So they raped her. The Russian soldiers did, and she ended up pregnant. And she claimed that the man who was the woman's son, whom she had a crush on. That's her secret. And then you have Florian, who is this young Prussian boy who got mixed up in this art stealing scheme where the guy was stealing art for Hitler. And Florian didn't realize until it was too late, so he decided to steal back some of the art, so he's carrying this amber swan in his pack, essentially. And it's basically about, it's their whole journey, them and a few other older people, adults, their journey to the Gustav and how they try to escape the persecution of Hitler and Stalin, and unfortunately the boat does not survive, so that was good. Although I will admit that I didn't have as much of an emotional impact with this story as Between Shades of Grey did. But I am wondering though if it's because I kind of rushed, because I had checked out 4 books from the library that week, and I think I felt like I kind of rushed it a little bit. Because I wanted to get done. Although I did good with that one because I decided to, instead of reading books at the same time, my library books at the same time, I decided to read them one at a time instead. So I think I kind of rushed that one a little bit, and that's why it wasn't emotionally impactful as Between Shades of Grey was. But I loved it, I really enjoyed it, it was a beautiful story, and I love how the author is writing about aspects of that part of history that people don't know about. I mean, they didn't know about those where the Russians were sent that were against communism and stuff, against the government that Stalin believed were against the government. They didn't know about those stories until the 90s because they were too afraid to talk about it. They weren't allowed to, almost. And so they didn't start talking about it until now. And even now, all we know about is like World War II, the whole Jewish persecution, Hitler and Stalin, of course. There's a little bit I learned about in my social studies class about Stalin in high school, I believe. But you don't know about this aspect. You don't know it was the Russian and German citizens and those who were against the government, how they dealt with the situation and how they felt. So I like that there's more books coming out there like that. I mean, even now, I mean, even there's the book thief, which was kind of about from the German point of view, and this young German girl and her, how she's dealing with the government, how it's affecting her personally. Okay, so and then here's my second Agatha Christie book, which is Murder at the Vicarage, which actually is the first book to introduce Miss Marple, an iconic character of Agatha Christie's. Miss Marple is this older woman, she's very smart and clever and notices things other people don't, but people don't take her seriously because she's this old batty woman, so they think, oh, she's wrong and she doesn't know what she's talking about, she's just nosing, blah, blah, blah. So basically the plot of this is that, this colonel who was not very well liked is visiting the vicar, but then he gets murdered while he's in the vicar's office. And it's about them trying to solve the case. The vicar gets involved with the case, and there's the subplot of the colonel's new wife, who's much younger than him, is basically having an affair with this artist that is living in town that's making a portrait of the colonel's daughter, the woman's stepdaughter. So there's a possibility they did it, and the same thing with the daughter. There's a possibility, or at least I thought when I was reading that it was the daughter. And it's basically about them solving that case and everything. And I feel that just like Murder on the Orient Express, it was very dry, but it was still a very entertaining story, very fun. The chapters were quick. I mean, some of them were longer than others. There was a few really long ones. But it was still enjoyable, and actually, I think I prefer the Agatha Christie book I just read called The Spider's Web. I like that one just a little bit better than these ones. Murder on the Orient Express is my second out of those three. I gave this one 5 stars. Although I might change it to 4 stars. I don't know. But, it was enjoyable. And one of the things I did like was Miss Marple. I thought she was a very compelling, entertaining character. I thought she was gonna be like an older detective, like in Murder, She Wrote. But no, she just was someone who paid attention a lot. Okay, so the last book, library book that I read was The Miniaturist by Jessie Burton. I don't know how to sum that thing up because so much happened, but basically this young woman, this 18-year-old woman marries this guy, this rich dude, Johannes, who he doesn't give her affection or anything, so the only thing he does is give her basically this dollhouse, and that she's supposed to, put stuff in and play with, but she's 18, so she automatically assumes I'm too old for this. But then this strange, mysterious woman, a miniaturist, carves all these little things for her to put in the house, and then while she's doing that, and all these things start happening, like she finds out that her husband is gay, and that he's having, an affair with this other guy, this guy Jack, and, of course, this is back in the time, the 1600s, so he was considered a sodomite if he's having, an affair with a boy, a young man. And so they're trying to protect him at the same time. They're dealing with, the guy, Johannes, is trying to, he works at a business where he sells sugar, and his sister's pressing them to sell the sugar to these sort of friends, and that does not, and he's not doing things the way she would do them, and she tries to run the business and stuff, and there's so much that happens in this. It's hard for me to sum up everything, but it was a very good story. It was just a lot. It was a lot of information, a lot of story, but it was very good. I did enjoy it, although I felt so bad for both Johannes, all the characters, like Johannes, the 3 main characters, the 5 characters. they were all in this horrible situation, and that they didn't know how to get out of, and like they couldn't. And it's just, and of course, again, this is 1600s, so I mean, they're very, very critical. I mean, if you're gay, then that's wrong, and that's a sin. I mean, there are still people who think that way. It's just, all this stuff is going on, and, you have the main woman, I can't remember her name, who was basically stuck in the middle of all this, and she has all these people coming at her from both sides. And she's really struggling, and of course her sister-in-law is the stronger one, but she has her own personal issues. And then, the woman starts to think, I wish I could remember her name. Nella. I mean, Petronella, I think but they call her Nella. Nella is starting to think that the miniaturist is a prophetess, and she has something to do with this because she predicts what's going on, what's going to happen, and and her sister-in-law and the maid think, this woman is a witch, and she should burn all the items she gave her, and that she shouldn't have got involved with her, and there's a lot. Again, this is another history. It wasn't like my favorite, but I did give it 4 stars. I thought it was very good. It was very entertaining. It was just a lot of stories for me to follow. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the books that I have in my personal possession. Okay, first thing that I read this month was A Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. This is a companion to the Grisha trilogy. This is a duology. This is the first book in duology. It's basically a group of, this guy, Kaz Breckerfein, he runs the criminal underground in Revka, in the city of Ketterdam. He runs a subdivision in a way. He finds out from his boss that there is a drug out there that makes Grisha 10 times stronger and expands their gifts, but it can be addicting, and eventually they'll burn out, and the Grisha will die. So Kaz must take a team to retrieve the scientists who made it, and who made this drug. And this scientist is in the ice court prison. So he gets Inej, who is a friend of his, although he secretly has feelings for her, and she secretly has feelings for him, but, Kaz doesn't want to get close to anybody, and with the way he acts, Inej is worried about getting her feelings hurt. But she was originally from a prostitution ring, and then Kaz rescued her from that. And she's really fast. She's not a Grisha, but she has skills where she can be really quick and fast and move without you seeing or hearing her. And he calls her the Wraith, so he brings her along to help. And, unfortunately, this kind of gets in the way of them ever having a relationship. And then you have Jesper, who is a sharpshooter, but he's also a gambler. He is just, he tends to, waste his money all the time, but he's, like I said, he's a sharpshooter. He's really, Kaz brings him along, but Kaz doesn't necessarily trust Jesper because of his gambling debts he, builds up and stuff. And then there's Nina, who, I don't know what she did, but she is a Grisha. She's a heart render, so she can stop your heart. So she comes along, and then Kaz offers, he also wants her help to get out this other guy that, Matthias, who she knew in the past, who they hate each other. They went on this bit of adventure and only made it worse because she betrayed him to protect herself. but she feels horribly guilty and still has feelings for him, but he hates her and sees her as a monster because his people see Grisha as, witches, as monsters, as unnatural beings. And he wants to kill her, and he even dreams about killing her. But he also still has desire for her. So she, out of guilt, she rescues him. She along with Kaz and the others, get him out of the prison, essentially. Out of the prison that he is in. And then there's Wyland, who is actually the son of the one that hired Kaz and his crew and his team. So, and he's a little bit inexperienced. He's never killed anybody, but all these people have. So it's a very unique group of people. And they basically go and of course, no journey is perfect. It gets very dangerous and tricky. So, and there's, conflict between all the characters. So what I love this story. I even love it better than the Grisha trilogy because, no offense, but the Grisha trilogy has it's very, I enjoyed that and it had differences, but it still kind of had that same YA vibe. But this one, it was different. There was no good characters, there was no good or obvious bad guys or anything, it was very shades of gray, and it was so, it was so much fun to read about, and I like high stories, but high stories that have a little bit of an extra thing to it, like magic and the supernatural and all that stuff. Those are always fun. Because, I don't think I can ever read a book version of Ocean's 11, which people were comparing it to that, because it kind of is that. It's these group of people going on this heist, and that's what the plot of the Ocean movies. And plus, isn't an awesome cover and everything, an awesome setup, not the plot is awesome, but just, this cover, first of all, the black pages are so beautiful, black edged pages, and I know that the sequel, Crooked Kingdom, has red edged pages, which is really cool, which I have, thankfully I have it, I got it this year for my birthday from my sister, and I love the raised lettering and the print, and I love this crow on here, and how the wings kind of make up the city, if you can see, and I noticed now books are doing this a lot, where instead of a summary, they basically have an excerpt from the novel, and then they have blurbs from other authors about the book, how awesome the book is, and they comparing it to other books and all that stuff. But this is just so cool. I just love this book. I enjoyed it so much. Like I said, I enjoyed it better than the Grisha trilogy. I love all the characters. Kaz is my baby. I love Kaz. They're all my babies. I just enjoy them, and I hope they're okay. I hope Inej is okay, because I know, something happens to her in the end of this book. So I'm not gonna say anymore because I'm not gonna spoil it anymore if you haven't read it. But I definitely recommend. If you have not read this, you need to read this. It's an awesome book, and it's only a duology, so you don't have to worry. And they say you don't have to read the Grisha trilogy to understand this book. I felt like I needed to because it kind of explains what the Grisha are. It gives you a better understanding of them and what they can do in the Grisha trilogy. And this one, you kind of just jump in with this one. So you can get away with reading this first. So, another thing I always like in fantasy sci-fi books, they always have a map, which is really cool. They have a map of their world. Although I never really study. I'm not one of those people that studies maps. It just looks. Sometimes I do a little bit, but and then it also has a map of the ice court where the scientist guy is being kept. So I gave this one 5 stars because I enjoyed it very much. Okay, so next I started my reread of Harry Potter, which is my 3rd attempt at reading the series because I read it. I did a 2nd attempt once, but I only got as far as the 5th book, halfway through it, maybe less than that. But And I'm not going to summarize this because I'm sure everybody knows what this book is about. It was so magical to reread. I mean, I know I will never be able to get the experience of rereading it for the first time back, but I loved this book. I just love this series. And there's so much stuff you miss that they couldn't include in the book. I mean, they couldn't include in the movie that I wish they had. That's why I made that video about why this would make an even better TV series. I mean, don't get me wrong though, the movies were awesome and they were one of the best adaptations, like next to the Hunger Games, they were one of the best adaptations ever made. Because I agree, I will admit that book adaptations don't always do that well. My problem is I read the book so long ago that I don't remember things, and it's just hard for me to recall how accurate the movie version, like Golden Compass or Aragon, for instance. Both those books, it's been so long since I read the first books of those, and and also Beautiful Creatures. So it's hard for me to remember how accurate the movies were. But this is so great, and there's so much stuff I miss. And I do love these covers. These were the first original American covers, I believe. Although I want to get the new paperback ones. Some of them, like maybe the one with the castle on it, or something like that. But, I have to find them first, and I can't buy. I'm not one of the lucky people who can just do huge book hauls, buy a bunch of books. So, but I wish I could. Then that could be dangerous, though. There's so much. I love all the characters, being reintroduced to the characters. It was so much fun to reread all this and to see it from the beginning all over, to read it from all the beginning and getting lost in this book. I loved it. And now I'm actually in the middle of Chamber Secrets, which I will talk about in a little bit. And then the last book I read this month is one of the few nonfiction books that I read and that I finished, called Brain on Fire, My Month of Madness by Susanna Cahalan. I don't know how to say her last name. This is a memoir of this woman who, basically she had experienced a brain inflammation, and, it made, like, one of the first symptoms she experiences, she had this paranoid fear of bed bugs. She started feeling numb on one side. She experienced tunnel vision during an important interview. That literally. She's a reporter for the New York Post. And, so many other things like paranoia, hallucinations, and, like, there were a couple times where she thought her boyfriend was gonna leave her. And then there was where she thought people were talking about her. She thought they were talking about her on TV. And she started, and eventually she lost her cognitive abilities and her ability to speak, to form sentences, and she started speaking in monosyllables, and she would have seizures, and just so many horrible things happened to this woman. And this is such a tragic story, and so brave of her to share this with the world, to willingly write this book and to tell people about it, because some people that actually might have what she had, they say that they might have they say, oh, they probably just have schizophrenia or something, and that might not be the case, or even autism, for instance, because it reduces her to a childlike state, essentially, and I remember the doctors and she talked about how the doctors at NYU Medical Center, they didn't know what was wrong with her until they hired specialists who could study her brain, who studied a piece of her brain and told her parents what she had. And it's basically about her what she can remember and what she learned from the doctors and what she learned from her parents while talking to them. And it was so good. And most nonfiction books to me are kind of dry. So, and this one was written really well. I mean, yes, there were some terms that I didn't know, and there are like 53 chapters. But the way it's written, the print is very good. It's not large, but it's not small either. And most of the chapters are really short, so it was a very easy read, and very enjoyable. I was very interested, and I would love to meet this woman, considering what she went through. Now, I never seen the movie, but I know they said there is a movie. It says, has one of those random stickers that said, now to be a major motion picture. And that she was diagnosed in 2009, and the book came out in 2012, so it's been a few years, I imagine, since the movie. But this was it was good. I definitely recommend this nonfiction. I think it was very interesting, and it's a very easy read. Okay, so I'm not very good with TBRs at sticking to them, but I will share some books that I hope to read this month. Okay, like I said, I started reading Chamber of Secrets, which I'm hoping to finish this before I leave, because I'm going to be going out of town to visit my sister soon. And I'm as far as Harry's already got to school and everything, and he's experienced his detention, so it's the first time we hear Tom, I think we experienced the first time we heard Tom Riddle's name, and of course, Harry is having his lovely encounters with Lockhart, and he heard the first time he heard the snake, the basilisk. We got to the part where he first hears the basilisk while having detention with Lockhart, and his first Quidditch match, and I think I just finished the chapter when you find out that Draco Malfoy is on the team as the new Seeker. Let's see. Oh, and I stopped right at the Death Day party, which I wish that was in the movie. The Death Day party. I was very done. I wish this had been in the movie. The Death Day party scene. I think that would have been fun, and would given John Cleese more of a role in the movie. But I know it was one of those things that they had to take out. But I mean, it's actually, that's the part when Harry goes and follows the voice and sees the writing on the wall, literally, and all that. And it's after the Death Day party that it happens, when he first experiences that, or the second time, actually. So, because he does hear the voice the first time in detention, but I think in the movie, they have the part when he sees the writing on the wall and stuff. That's, I think, might be when his first, in the movie, that's the first time, But I really wish they had the Death Day party, because that would have been fun to watch, and just come up with all the dead food I bet that would be so fun for the crew to create all the food that looked like dead stuff. And like I said, it would give John Cleese more of a role to play, in the movie, but, which, I guess that means he was Muggle. John Cleese was his character. I guess that means Nearly Having the Snake was a mudblood, or a Muggle, or whatever. Or a mudblood, I guess. Okay, so I also started back to reading Fallen Kingdoms. This is a little slower. I mean, it really is a lot. It is kind of written in a YA version of A Song of Ice and Fire. So I didn't get a lot written, but there's definitely, the kid, So but the war between the feuding countries has started, and the one princess, Princess Cleo, is trying to find a cure for her sister who is sick. And Magnus, the illegitimate brother of Magnus's father, was just killed, so that Magnus could prove himself to the chief of the clan, the other city. What is it called? His country. I don't know what it's called. And Jonas has talked to the king, and he might be leading a rebellion against the other king, against Uranus. I don't know how to say it. But it's really interesting so far. I mean, I don't want a lot of action, but I think it's still interesting. I'm currently reading that one. And then I started this one a while ago. So I've gotten kind of far, and I've gotten a good chunk in. Basically, it's like flashbacks. It's on a flashback moment where they're kids and everything, and they just finished building the dam. If you've seen the miniseries, this is the part when they just finished building the dam. And they're kind of focusing on Eddie as a boy. So this is one of the problem with the only thing with Stephen King is I don't think everybody can get into Stephen King as far as horror writing, because he writes a lot, and he writes a lot of details in his stories. I mean, I like it, but I don't think everybody. Although I am I'm gonna see if my friend Terry, who's coming to visit next week, I'm gonna give her my other copy of this book, because I have another copy that the cover fell off, and I know that sounds kind of messed up because it's not a nice copy, but you could still read it, and I'm not gonna force her to take it. Of course, I can't donate it. I don't know what else to do with it, so I'm gonna see if she'll take it, because it's just gonna sit on my shelf if she doesn't. And I probably will never read it. I mean, that's probably why. The same thing, if I got the Harry Potter paperback, there would be no point in keeping these original editions, because then, I mean, I would like to keep them, but my mom would be like, probably think, why do you need 2 copies? You know, because unless I'm gonna read both copies at some point, you know, it's like, why keep two sets of copies? So I'm pretty far in this, so I feel like I need to get back into this book. It's just, there's so much to read in this book. But, I mean, I do love Stephen King, but okay. So also, okay, one of the topics this month for Top 5 Wednesday is books that are about the non-Western world. So basically, books that don't take place in Europe or don't take place in America. And sadly, I have not read a lot of books like that. I've only read a few. So I don't have 5. So I'm thinking about starting reading this book, The Joy Luck Club, which is one of my sister's books that she let me borrow. She let me borrow this one and the other book that this Amy Tan wrote. She let me borrow both those books. So, but I don't know if I'm able to get both these books done by then. But I could cheat, you know, and say that I am reading, if I get far enough. So, but I have seen the movie, because I remember my sister reading this book and she wanted to see it. I mean, unfortunately, if I wasn't donating the other, Memoirs of a Geisha, I could probably include that one too. But I might still have that one in the bag in the corner over there. So I'm gonna try to read this. And then last, but these might not be the books I'll read. But this one I have to focus on, because this is a library book, and it's actually due on one of the days I'm away at SuperCon in Raleigh. So I'm gonna have to recheck this one out from the library. But I finally got around to Uprooted. I've been wanting to, and I was having a hard time looking for a book, because my library, there's a lot of mystery in both my library and in my in the roast office, the little bookshop in town. So it's very hard. Like, I like mystery and I like historical fiction. I love historical fiction, but sometimes I want to get back into my fantasy, because my fantasy is the number one. So I saw this and I was very excited. I had one of those moments when I saw it. I got very excited. So I definitely had to get this one. And I've been hearing Sam from Thoughts on Tomes talk about this, and a few other people, so I want to read this. And I'm very excited. And now that I've gotten my third Agatha Christie book out of the way, The Spider's Web, which was only like 22 chapters, so I read 10 yesterday, and then I read the other 12, I should say, the 12 chapters today. So, So I was able to get that done. And now I can focus on this one along with my other books. Okay, so those are the potential books I'm going to be reading. Okay, so that was my TBR in the books I'm going to be reading this month. I really hope this video is not too long because I'm going to have to remake this one more time. But I'm... Okay, so, okay, well, thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know down in the comments if you read any of the books that I mentioned here, even the books that I mentioned I might be reading this month in July, and tell me what you think, and tell me what you think. Alright, thank you, bye!